Hey, gig.
Hey, congratulations for Me, You, and Madness.
Thanks,
Did
man.
you like it?
I love it. You know what? Honestly, I had no idea what to expect, and I was laughing throughout the entire film. So,
Yeah.
Yay!
so let's start off with the easy question, Louis. Where did you came up with this idea for Me, You, and Madness? Because it's bonkers.
It's bonkers. I'm a big fan of the farcical anti-plot. Like Airplane was my favorite movie. Basically, any movie that has Leslie Nielsen in it. I'm also a big fan of all the femme fatale movies and all these diabolical, incredibly powerful female characters that have thrilled and intrigued us over the decades. I mean, I'm going back to like Barbara Stanwyck in Double Indemnity, or Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard, and Jean Tierney in Leave Her to Heaven. And last night I actually rewatched Basic Instinct and Fatal Attraction. I did a double movie. Double feature. I just love those films, and I'm also really inspired by American Psycho. I think Bret Easton Ellis is a genius, and I really like the idea of creating a character who was so empowered, so uninhibited, so fierce, but also, you know, she's a satire, she's a parody, she's meant to be so darn awful that she's kind of like, she's super fun to be horrified by.
Ed, why did you want to do a film like this, and how did she convince you to do this?
Man, I didn't need much convincing, you know. I think this was something I'd never really read anything like this, let alone kind of, you know, been approached to do it. And I just thought, wow, you know, this is something I haven't really done. And I met Louise, and we just had the best like first meeting you could possibly have. Super nice, super warm, incredible enthusiasm for what she was doing, and a great vision. And we just like wanted to do this thing, and I just felt like, okay, this would be such an adventure. I would get to kind of explore something that I've not done before in terms of this type of comedy, this kind of character.
And he's a brilliant comedic actor.
Thank you.
I think audiences are going to love seeing him play in a comedy, because he's just so good at it.
And I like to be a bit scared, you know. I like to be a bit out of my comfort zone, and that's exciting. It's exhilarating, you know. That's what it's about for me, man. That's why I keep acting.
Absolutely. Louise, the last movie I've seen you was like this home invasion movie that was quite a while back. But
yeah.
But for the both of you, how do you develop your comedic chemistry? Because you two were perfect in this film.
Thank you. I think we just honestly,
we laugh as much off camera as we do on camera. We just have a natural playfulness, and we're both very silly and goofy. And
there was no vanity there, no self-consciousness.
No.
There was no like whatever, man. It was just like we were just
fun.
mucking in and having fun. It was like two kids playing in the mud, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just, we have as much fun off camera as we do on.
Terrific. One of the things I adored about this film is the 80s soundtrack, because there was just 80s song after 80s song after 80s song. I wasn't even sure if I was watching a movie or I was at a karaoke bar. But,
or watching an MTV video.
But what is your obsession with the 80s music that you wanted to put so much in there, because it's just nostalgic?
I mean, these are all my favorite songs. I love the Pointer Sisters. I love Duran Duran. I mean, all of the songs that went into this film, even The Cure, The Cure is in there. I love the 80s. What can I say? I was born in the 80s. I grew up watching 80s movies. I mean, I was a kid dancing in my living room to Footloose and Flashdance. And I adore 80s music. I adore that decade. I think it was a really happy decade. You know, and this film has a lot of the materialism and that outlandish aspirational content that was so prevalent in the 80s, but there's also a really sentimental and emotional undercurrent, and I think there was a lot of sentimentality in 80s cinema. I'm thinking of all the John Hughes films that I watched. He was such a great director, but I I wrote the song as I was listening to these, I wrote the movie as I was listening to these songs, and I wrote them into the screenplay. So it was all very, very intentional.
So cool.
Thanks.
That is very cool. But speaking of which, Ed, you had a pretty good dance scene for your which is so I want to say like Tom Cruise from Risky Business, like.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, he's going to give Tom Cruise's Risky Business a run for its money.
Mentioned in the same breath as the man himself is something.
I've watched that scene about 400 times, and I think most other women will too.
I just went for it, you know. I don't, you know, it wasn't really, you know, that choreographed. There was a little bit in there, but you know, this was just about a guy who is literally so excited. He just can't hide it. And so I was just like looking around at one point. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go swing off those iron bars right there. That's what I'm going to go to. Run up, grab and swing. So it was, oh man, it was just free. You know, it was just the happiest time in this character's life. And I just went for it, you know, and that was it.
And that house is amazing. Is that's not one of your houses, right? It's just for production.
That's a beautiful architectural mansion in North Malibu, way up in the mountains. It's very remote. I wrote the film really for that location. It was important to me to have that house because it was so representative of who this character is. You know, that is exactly the house that kind of person would live in. It's cool, it's sleek, it's architectural, it's remote, which is very important for Catherine because, you know, when you're chasing people around and chopping them up, you don't want anybody, you know, too easily escaping. You don't want the neighbors to hear anything, you know. So it was the dream location. It is such a beautiful house.
Absolutely. Every serial killer would love to live in a house like that, right?
Right. Don't you see Patrick Bateman and Catherine shacking up in that house?
What about your fight choreography scenes? How did you guys actually coordinate it, or did you just try to wing it as much as possible?
That was very intense.
Both. There was a bit of both in there for sure.
Well, when I was writing it, I mean, I was writing in the dialogue, and then I was trying to also write in, you know, because it's very slapstick, you know, where they're slapping each other. I took that from Laurel and Hardy. And, you know, so it was really a sort of a delicate balance, you know, the delivery of the line followed by the bang, delivery of the line, slap, you know. And we worked really hard with a stunt choreographer, and
then didn't follow what they said.
And then we didn't.
It became incredibly dangerous and didn't follow anything.
Literally, that moment where I careen over Ed's head, that was an accident. And in the moment, I was screaming, "Don't cut! Don't cut!" And Ed saved my life. In that second, I saw the cement coming towards my face, and I was like, "Okay, it's over."
Oh,
but he grabbed me, and just, you know, my legs were like, he was underneath my shirt.
I felt like a bride. I had this veil all over my face. I was like,
with my, like,
so this is what it's like.
My slick,
two legs,
sexy black, you know, leather plasticky boots, like sticking up in the air. And that was a happy accident. We kept that in the movie. But yeah, Ed had to see the medic after that scene. No joke. I mean, I think it
wow.
Yeah.
Well, Ed, I guess you're fortunate that you didn't have to go through all these costume changes. Well, Louise, could you talk about all the costume changes? Where did you get all that wardrobe from?
You know what? It was important to me to have this character changing so frequently. It was physically implausible. Like, you know, of course she's not going to smack him over the head with a tennis racket unless she's in full tennis kit. You know, it's just one of the comedic aspects of the character. And I know that I've watched films, you know, and I've always been so wowed by some of the gorgeous costumes. And I thought, why not, you know, throw even more onto the screen, aside from the 80s color scheme and the lighting, and which I, you know, worked really hard to we make every scene feel very neon and fun. But I wanted to throw in, you know, completely ludicrous outfits, you know, like when Ed walks in and he's like, oh, are you heading out? And she's like, no. You know, I wanted it to be ridiculous and silly.
That is terrific. And one more 80s thing that I loved was breaking the fourth wall, because that was so Ferris Bueller like. Could you talk?
That's the first movie I ever saw it done, and I thought it was so genius in that shower scene. And again, it goes back to my favorite director, John Hughes, and I, you know, I wanted the film to be very self-aware, and I wanted the audience to feel as though they're in on the joke with us. But you know, yeah.
You guys are awesome. Well, let me wrap it up with one last question, because we're talking you know, virtual Zoom right now, but how are you guys staying sane and creative during times like this, because the world is just going bonkers?
I spend it writing. Like I'm working on 2 other screenplays, so that's how I handle it.
I spend it making sure that you're spending it well.
He's like, right, have you got our next movie ready yet, Linton? I'm like, yes, sir, I'm writing away, I'm almost ready.
Yeah. I spend it trying to make sure she's stressed out. I think, you know, I mean, it's hard, right? Like all sorts of different things trying to, but yes, trying to stay creative is hard. I think it comes in bursts for me, definitely, but right now to be able to like promote this film that we worked hard on, and it, you know, it definitely kind of has a lot of creativity in it, you know, that feels really good. So it's something to celebrate. And I think, you know, right now you got to grab your celebrations and victories whenever you can.
And I hope people like this movie, because it's the perfect Valentine's movie.
Terrific. Well, hey, congratulations, and thank you for speaking with me to the board.
Thank you so much. Bye.